June 26, 1945, 50 nations gathered in the San Francisco Opera House to vote for the approval of the Charter of the new United Nations.
And it is now my duty, my honor and my privilege in the chair to call for a vote on the approval of the Charter of the United Nations.
Nation by nation, the delegates cast their votes. 50 peoples pledged to peace.
The United Nations was forged in the wartime alliance of the United States, Great Britain, and Russia. From these three allies came the call for a world body that could settle conflicts and prevent war.
We must bring into being an international civil service wholly dedicated to the service of the United Nations.
In April of 1945, the first meeting of this august body convened.
We, the peoples of the United Nations, momentous opening words of the Great Charter for World Peace. At San Francisco, 200 men and women of 50 nations labored to build an organization that will outlaw war for all time.
The UN hoped to succeed where the earlier League of Nations had not. The big three allies, joined by France and China, would serve as permanent members of a smaller managing cabinet called the Security Council. This Security Council would deal with the more pressing business of the UN. Leaders and representatives from around the world met to discuss and ratify the Charter for the United Nations. Even newly inaugurated President Truman attended. While there, he met with many world leaders. The 5 Security Council nations signed the Charter as a solemn promise to support its purpose.
The Charter of mankind's deepest hopes. Humanity demands that this be the Magna Carta of lasting peace.
At the final session, President Truman addressed the assembled, speaking to the importance of this newly founded body.
If we had had this charter a few years ago, and above all the will to use it, millions now dead would be alive. If we should falter in the future in our will to use it, millions now living will surely die. Well, there's a time for making plans, and there's a time for action. The time for action is here now.
With these strong words, Truman challenged the countries of the world to live up to the principles endorsed by the Charter, and hoped that the United Nations would preserve peace and security for all, as was its goal. On June 26, 1945, the people of the world moved a little closer as the United Nations brought these 50 countries together. The experiment in international cooperation and peace would grow to include over 180 nations.